Are you tired of websites that have been Frankenstein together?
Oh, my website is so slow and creaky.
Every time I use the search bar, it just returns Abby Normal over and over again.
Becky's sister company, the Concept Spot, holds the secret to life itself and can create new life from nothing. In fact, we've been giving life to highly functional websites for the last 25 years using premium parts we swear we didn't salvage from graveyards.
Ooh, check out that header image. Instead of going, my new website purrs.
Need a blog? The Concept Spot can do that. Want an online store? We can do that too.
We build our sites from the cellular level. No reused templates or discarded body parts here, so we can make your site do whatever you want and look however you want.
It's gorgeous! I can't even see the stitches.
We can also resurrect your dead website if rigor mortis has set in.
Oh, it's like a new man.
If you think Homespun Haints is frighteningly genius, you should see our websites. Let your favorite ghoulish gals, Becky and Diana, build you a monstrous website that will wreak havoc on the internet for years to come.
Visit theconceptspot.com for more information.
It's live! It's live! New York is known for many things. A fast-paced demeanor, an incredible art scene, and the ability to get a great slice of pizza at 4 in the morning. But for one family, their new house in a swanky Queens neighborhood meant one thing above all else: evil spirits. Was this family tormented by deceased former residents of their home? Or were evil occult Nazi practices at play? You decide, today on Homespun Haints. Hello, Hainted Loves. Welcome to Homespun Haints. I am Becky.
Hi, I'm Diana.
Today on the show, we have Chris from the Wandering Road podcast. We're so excited to talk to him. He approached us. He knows JJ, who you heard from a few episodes ago. And we are actually going to be on the Wandering Road podcast this week, on this Friday. So if you're listening to this episode as it comes out, make sure you go check out the Wandering Road podcast so you can hear me and Diana in all of our glory.
Crossovers. Everybody loves a crossover episode.
Don't they?
Well, Becky, luckily I saw something yesterday that answers an age-old question that you've had for me in the past. And you've asked me this multiple times, and both times I had to guesstimate because I hadn't actually gotten any metrics yet. So yesterday I was able to gather data and interpret metrics to answer your question with perfect accuracy. And the answer is 6 minutes.
Okay, I don't know what question I would have asked.
That's how long it takes for Aldabra tortoises to fuck. Don't you remember asking me that and I didn't know? I was all impressed with myself, and then you asked me the one question I didn't know, timing. I don't pay attention to timing. There are tortoises fucking. I'm having too much fun watching.
Oh, when you were at the zoo. Yes.
I was at the zoo. Yeah.
Okay.
And yesterday I went back and I hung out right in the tortoise pen. And it's springtime. One of the tortoises, one of the big tortoises, was following one of the little tortoises around for a long time. And I was watching him chase her. And then another tortoise cut in line and totally took it for himself.
Was the female tortoise consenting to this act?
I don't know how to define consent when it's a tortoise.
I mean, was she trying to move away, or she was like, okay? Did she seem like she was
walking
enjoying herself?
slowly while they were engaged in the coital activity.
Okay.
So
all right.
I'm assuming she was trying to get away, but tortoises don't do anything very fast.
Okay. It took them 6 minutes. You timed
6
it.
minutes for the entire event. I pulled out my video camera for you, Becky. So now you have a video of this.
Oh no, are we gonna share it here?
Absolutely. Would you like to see it right now?
I would.
Let me text it to you. The best part of this was it was like a total operation, like 70s porn operation, because Amber was filming from a different angle. So we actually have multiple like camera angle views that we can edit together into a professional video of this if we want to.
Well, how do you know for sure that he finished?
He stopped groaning.
He was groaning?
Yeah.
Well, we won't play the entire clip here, Hainted Loves, because that would just be
You'll
dirty.
have to go to the show notes for that if you want the entire clip.
But here's a snippet for your viewing pleasure.
I don't know. Snippet just sounds like too appropriate of a term for what we're about to see.
Okay, let's watch this thing. Oh my god, he's groaning!
Oh wow. And if you zoom in, he's also regurgitating a bunch of chewed up grass.
Oh my god! Gross!
Sexy.
Oh, she is not enjoying that at all. Oh my god. She's like,
I wasn't expecting a regurgitation. That's a surprise.
oh no. Oh my god. Oh my god.
Well, so the groaning is quite impressive, is it not? Sadly, there were no children at the time that required an explanation of the behavior, so we didn't get to talk about it, but there were some other adults there laughing
Oh
with
my
me.
god.
You get to hear it later in the video, I guess.
Oh my god. Why is he throwing up? Gross.
Hard work. This guy's like 120 years old and like weighs at least 300 pounds. It's hard
She's
work.
like, whatever. Do not get me knocked up, you dumbass. Oh.
Oh no, they're going for that. They've got one of the most successful Aldabra turtle breeding programs in any captivity in the United States.
Yeah, I
I
can
can
see why.
now. I can see why. There's a lot of
Did they like
competition.
spray her with aphrodisiacs or something?
Something happened because those turtles were following her in a line. But here's the thing: the guy who cut in line and got his, the other guy, he literally watched and then turned around and sighed, and a single wet tear dribbled from his little
Are you
reptile
serious?
eye. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. He sighed and cried when he lost his turn in line. I felt bad for that guy. He was not having a good
I
day.
feel bad for the female.
Oh no, wait, here's the ultimate kicker. If she really wanted to say no, guess what? The part of her shell right over her backside touches the ground.
Oh.
So if she wanted to cut him off, she could quite literally cut him off.
Okay.
That's a hard shell and that's a lot of concrete. So
Whoa. Okay. All right.
so it was at least consensual to that degree.
Oh my god. Whoa. Okay, I can't unsee that. That was.
Do you have any other questions now that I've answered your burning question of how long do they fuck?
I'm at a loss for words.
Excellent.
I talk about being in the right place at the right time.
It is fortunate because, like I said, 6 minutes out of who knows how many years since he's been able to find a female. I mean, they move really slow.
Wow. Okay, so she's gonna have little bibbies.
Little legs.
What kind of turtle was this again? A Labra turtle?
Aldabra. Aldabra. So yes, I have sent you their professional headshots that are on display at the zoo. So you can identify who was fucking who and who was left out.
Have I really asked you how long it takes for them to fuck? Has that actually been a question I've asked you? Or are you just saying that
Yes.
for show business purpose? Really?
Yes.
What is wrong with me?
Nothing that's not wrong with me.
Oh, okay. Well,
So,
Chris, you are welcome.
and while Becky's lost for words, Chris is not. Our next guest is coming on. He has plenty of words to say, and they are all about very spooky things. But if you're a patron,
We have two patrons who have recently upped their tiers. So big shout out to Connie and Kathleen to upping your tiers. Thank you guys so much.
thank you,
I really
Connie and Kathleen.
appreciate
Mwah,
it.
mwah, 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 mwah.
Yes.
I guess I'll have to make more Yule gifts this year, huh?
Yeah, I think so. So thanks so much, guys. It's been awesome having you join us for the exciting book clubs and tarot readings that we've had. It's been great getting to know you guys better. So thank you so much for upping your tiers. We appreciate it.
We do very much. All of our patrons make our dreams come true by making this podcast possible. So thank you. Thank you, every single one of you. Even if you signed up a long time ago, we are still really appreciative. And
Absolutely.
one of the ways that we show our appreciation is by allowing our commercial-free content to circulate just a moment before the regular people get it. But if you'd prefer to stay one of those regular people, that's your prerogative, of course. And we have this commercial just for you.
Oh man, I had a rough day.
What happened, honey?
I was out with the guys and
And?
they said I wasn't spooky enough.
Oh, honey, how could they say that to you? You're hella spooky.
You think so?
Of course. After all, you came up with the ectoplasm being ghost jizz theory, and you've been scratched by more horny ghosts than anyone else I know.
Well, I suppose you're right.
But if you're really worried about it, I have just the thing.
Oh wow, a spooky AF t-shirt?
That's right. Our Spooky AF line comes in shirt, sweatshirt, pillow, and even a high-quality mug.
Man, those are super awesome, especially for something with profanity on it.
What's even better, all these items were hand-lettered exclusively from Homespun Haints by world-renowned calligrapher Nikki Malik.
Holy ghostly cannoli, that's amazing.
From now on, whenever you brandish your Spooky AF gear, no one will accuse you of being boring.
Yeah, I'm spooky AF.
Visit homespunhaints.com for all Spooky AF merchandise. Today on the show, we have Chris from the Wandering Road podcast. He is co-host with his buddy Dean. They explore topics very similar to our own. They circle around the paranormal. They talk to other very, very interesting guests. I am so excited to talk to Chris today about aliens. So, among other things. Welcome to the show, Chris. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Becky. Thank you, Diana, for having me on the show. I know I reached out to you guys on such short notice because you guys had my buddy JJ on.
He is amazing.
Love you, JJ.
He was a delight.
So how do you and JJ know each other?
Well, when I first started the podcast, it was probably a little over 2 years now.
Okay.
I randomly reached out to him on, I think it was like Podcast Guests or whatever that website is.
That's where I found him.
I saw Southern Demonology. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, that sounds really interesting. Let's see what this guy has to say. And the thing that like keyed me in was Japanese ghosts and demons. And I'm like, okay, that sounds good for a specialized episode. So I reached out to JJ, had him on the show. It went so great. Then we went on his show. It was for me to share my stories. Completely awesome. Then we became friends on social media, TikTok friends, and we just kept sending each other memes back and forth. And we've just been good friends ever since. So
Have you met in person?
not yet. We plan to do that. We're not that far from each other. I'm in
Okay.
Western Pennsylvania, and I think he's like in Northern Virginia. So
yeah,
it's not
you
that
guys
far.
are pretty close.
Post-pandemic adult relationships no longer depend on physical proximity at all. It's amazing.
My husband always gives me a hard time whenever Diana and I plan to meet somebody that we've met through the podcast in person. And it's always some remote, haunted, middle of nowhere location. And he's like, wait a minute, you do just know these people through the internet, right? And you're going to be driving to where there's no cell phone reception and the lights are out. And I'm like, oh, well, you put it that way. But
Yes. As we hunt for ghosts until 4 a.m. in the woods in the dark.
yeah, but you do get to know people very, very well these days through these online channels and through podcasting. I mean, once you have these very intimate conversations about very intense topics, when you think about it, exploring the unknown, then you really do get to know people.
We talk about AI, we talk about aliens, we talk about the paranormal, demons, cryptids, whatever strange thing you could think of, we try to tackle and give our opinion on and try to find examples to talk about. But I think the most favorite thing that I do with my podcast is that I try to create like a paranormal safe space. therapy type of session. Because I'm sure you guys experienced this as well when you talk to certain people about this, but for whatever particular reason, whether it be their religious beliefs, they just box themselves into their own reality.
Right.
They're uncomfortable talking about it, or they're ashamed to talk about it. And I was like, you know what? What the hell? Let's bring people on, share your stories. You're not going to be judged, because I went through stuff myself, so I know what it feels like to not be believed.
So you mentioned that you have your own experiences. What stories would you like to share with us?
So I can start with the alien one first to fit your theme.
Hell yeah.
It's not as great as it sounds.
What?
Don't say that. I'm sure
It was one of those things where it's like, was it aliens? Was it a spotlight? Was it a helicopter? I'm leaning more towards something alien-y. And the reason I say that is I grew up in New York. So I was born and raised in the Bronx. But we ended up moving to Queens, and that's relevant to the stories I'll share later, when I was about 9 years old. So I remember this one time we were coming back from a trip from Manhattan. We took the train, and we took the A train specifically. We got off at Lefferts Boulevard, and when we got off of the train, we start walking home. It's about 10:30 at night. So this was probably maybe 2003, 2004-ish. And we noticed this light. Like when we'd stop, it would stop. When we walk, it would walk. And I remember my sister was in the stroller and my mom, like I'm walking beside my mom and she looks a little concerned. And I'm like, Mom, is that the police? Is that a spotlight or something? And she didn't know what to tell me. So we just kept going. We just beelined it to home. And the entire time, this light is following us. And then eventually, like, we got to our home and we got inside, looked out the window, not there anymore.
How high up in the sky was it? When you say it followed you, was it like eye height on the sidewalk behind you, or was it like way up in the sky?
It was like way up in the sky.
Okay.
And the more I think about it, the more I realize this is not an airplane. This is not a helicopter.
You would have heard a helicopter.
Yeah, it was like a single light, like a single white light. With a helicopter, you'd hear the rotors, you'd see the green and red flashing lights.
Right, of course.
Same thing with an airplane, you'd hear their loud ass engines. It's not.
Yeah.
And I lived near JFK Airport, so there's a lot of air traffic coming back and forth through the area, and you know what it sounds like. This had no sound.
This is also before drones were really a thing, too.
Yeah, you're talking early 2000s, so if there were drones, they were probably really expensive, and no one in my area would have had that.
And you would have still been able to hear something. I
Right,
imagine.
yeah. Some sort of motor or something of that sort.
When you completed the journey and you got home and it turned out that it wasn't there anymore, did you feel like it had any deeper meaning, or that it maybe was a threat to you or interacting with you in some way?
Not necessarily. The only reason I was concerned was because my mom was concerned. I thought it was cool. I was like 12 years old at the time,
Yeah,
12, 13. So at that age, I'm like, oh, that looks really neat in the sky. And my mom's like, we need to get the fuck home.
Right,
type of
right.
thing.
Yeah.
I don't want to stick around to find out, what's going on. Because you're talking about a lady that has her like tween son and her daughter in the stroller, who's maybe would have been, I don't know, 5 years old at the time. She's like, I don't want to deal with this. I just want to get home.
You said that was a UFO story, but do you have ghost stories as well?
Oh, plenty.
Oh.
So I'll start from the beginning. So,
Okay.
like I said, born and raised in New York, in the Bronx, ended up moving to Queens. So the first thing that I can specifically remember comes while I was still living in the Bronx. I was probably maybe 5 years old at the time, between ages 4 to 6. And I know it's around that time because my sister was just born. So it had to be between like 5 and 6 years old. If you guys have seen what New York apartments look like, the rooms are very big in such a small area at the same time. The one big bedroom where I stayed in with my parents, there was one big window and all of our beds were situated to the right side of the room against the wall. And I had this like little Batman car bed.
Yes. I know
And
the one.
it was like pressed up against the wall. So when I would wake up and I would turn, like my parents' dresser was right there. You had the TV. So like the furniture was all the way on the other side. So I wake up. It was around about 3 a.m. I look over and there's these dwarf looking type of things.
What?
Yeah. In other cultures, like Hispanic culture, they call them duendes.
Duende.
So
Yeah.
I didn't know what it was at the time. And it wasn't until recently throughout doing my podcast, I'm like, this kind of sounds like duendes. Yeah. There was about 6 or 7 of them there. And I'm just looking at them. I can't make out any features or anything. But one thing I specifically remember is that I started yelling at them. So picture a little kid at 3 a.m. yelling at them, telling them, like, why are you here? You don't belong in here. You need to get out now.
Get out of my Batmobile. Yeah. Got
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Do not. No, this is my Batmobile. Get away from it.
Nice.
So my mom wakes up and she like tells me in Spanish, basically she reprimands me in Spanish saying like, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you awake? Why are you screaming? And then I told her, what I saw. She looks over and obviously I look over and they're not there anymore.
Of course.
So I'm like, okay, whatever. I go to bed. Fast forward about 30 years, 25 years. When I was visiting my parents in Florida this past late August, September, me and my wife, we went down there for our 3rd wedding anniversary. I was talking to my mom and I'm like, Mom, you remember that one time I did that? And she's like, yeah, that's not the only time that happened. She's like, one time I had to sleep in the bed with you because you said you were scared they were going to get you. One time she was feeding my sister at this around that time too, 3 o'clock in the morning. And she came to get me because I was so terrified.
Oh, wow.
I don't have any memory of that. The only memory I have is of the one time when I'm yelling at them.
Right.
And she's like, no, this has happened multiple times.
Ooh.
So that starts my paranormal journey. Being tormented as a child.
By Duende.
By duendes.
Did your mom, when she told you about the other instances, did she say what you described in those instances? Did you ever describe the creatures to her?
Yeah, she said she's seen them before too.
Oh.
Yeah, just the little shadows. And it's like, so my mom is like super Catholic, so she's not really afraid of anything.
Yeah.
So
I get it.
Good for her.
So like if something bothers your kid, you go into mama bear mode. You're like, okay, what's fucking with my kid? Because I'm gonna kick your ass. Like,
Absolutely.
don't mess with my kid. Mm-hmm. And that's how my mom always was, both physically and with the paranormal.
Did your mom also think they were Duende?
She never really named it, but she just kind of validated what I saw.
Absolutely.
She was more focused on, making sure her kids were okay, as opposed to, trying to figure out what it was. Even now, she doesn't even bother to figure out what it is because she kind of has the mentality is like, okay, I'll deal with it as it comes, but I'm not going to actively try to learn about it, if that makes sense.
Did these things appear only in that? This was the Queen's apartment, right?
The Bronx apartment.
The Bronx
They only
apartment.
appeared in the Bronx. I only saw
Okay.
them there.
Okay, so it's not like they followed you around. Maybe they were just attached to that building somehow.
Yeah, I wish they did. Because I'd rather deal with them than what we dealt with in Queens.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that the whole Queen situation kind of came full circle when I started my podcast because almost everybody in the household has, now that we haven't been there since 2007, 2008, now people are more comfortable talking about it. But we do it in a joking manner because it's like, I'm not going to be depressed or something like that because you can't do anything about it now. It's
Sure.
whatever the new owner's problem. So in 1999, we moved to Queens. We moved to a 2-family home. So my parents and myself and my sister, we ended up living upstairs. And my aunt, uncle, and cousin, they ended up living downstairs. We moved into the house. When we were early into the move, my mom had to go to work. I went to school, and my aunt came to babysit my younger sister. My mom comes back from work, and my aunt tells my mom, "You have visitors in this home."
Ooh.
And my mom's like, "What are you talking about? Did somebody come over while we were gone? Like, what are you talking about?"
Not that kind of visitors.
No, she's like, "You have visitors in this home." Yeah, and I'll preface by saying that my mom can hear and see things. She has 8 other siblings. They can all do it as well, but they don't really talk about it. The most common thing that would happen when we moved in early on, I remember my aunt had this stereo system, like with the whole big speakers from like the 1980s, right? So we move in, they have it. So when you walk through the front door, immediately to the left is the door to their part of the house. And then for us, you would go straight through a little hallway up the stairs and you hang a left and our door is right there. Between the steps and that apartment, there's like a little walkway to the left and goes around the steps that goes into the basement. So I remember when I was 9, they had the stereo system set up. Nobody was home downstairs. It was me, my mom, and my sister. The stereo system would just turn on by itself. I went downstairs and I turn it off. I look around the place. No one's home. And I'm like, okay, it's old. It's from the mid 80s, whatever. We're almost in the year 2000. There's something electrical going on. Go back upstairs. Happens again. I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm going to unplug it. Whatever. Go back upstairs again. Turns on again. Unplugged.
Well.
So I'm like, okay, this is weird. And the odd thing is that I wasn't the only one that experienced this, that heard this. My mom heard it. My sister heard it. That wasn't the only isolated incident where we unplugged it and it turned on by itself. My cousin dealt with this before. He told his parents, like, look, this thing is turning on by itself. I didn't turn it on. And they're like, you know what? Whatever. We'll go get a new one. They get a new setup. The fucking thing still turns on by itself.
That goes like music.
It would go full blast, like full blast. You could turn it off with the knob fully down and it would be full blast. I'd be sitting upstairs in my living room and it would scare the shit out of me. I'm like, what the fuck is that? So not only do we have that, when we moved in, the footsteps in the attic.
Ooh.
Every day you would hear back and forth, like heavy stomps, like someone had boots on, stomping back and forth, the whole length of the attic.
Oh, so like from one side of the house all the way to the other.
Mm-hmm. That's the attic stuff. My parents, my dad specifically, and my uncle tried to say it was pigeons and squirrels. And I'm like, pigeons don't have Timberland boots on. So there's no fucking way that it's pigeons and squirrels stomping in the attic.
That sounds a little silly.
As a kid at the time, you accepted the explanation of the adults. I'm not going to argue with you because I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. I trust you because you're an adult. You're my parents. You're my aunt. You're my uncle. So we left it alone. Sporadically, you would be sitting in the living room by yourself. You would hear footsteps in the hallway. You would hear footsteps in our house proper, like in our apartment proper, just walking. If you were by yourself, it amplified. But as soon as the lights went out, you would hear footsteps walking back and forth.
And everybody heard this.
Yep. My mom is a very light sleeper, and she would hear this stuff all the time. Other things that would happen is, like, we'd be sitting there. This happened frequently between 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. every day after school. I don't know why, but we would hear 3 knocks on our door. Me as a little 11-year-old kid, my dumbass, I'm like, oh shit, my cousin's here. Like, we're going to go play PlayStation or something. I open the door. No one's there. I'm like, okay, whatever. Happens again. I open the door. No one's there. This happens frequently for like weeks on end. And my dad's sitting there watching like NBC News, like forcing us to watch it. I don't really give a crap. Then one day it happens again. And I was going to get up and go answer the door. And he was like, no, I'm going to go answer it just to make sure it's not your cousin dicking around trying to prank us. Because my cousin is like maybe 5-6 years older than me. So my dad goes, opens the door, and he never believed me when I said there was no one there. He hears a knock, opens the door. There's nobody there.
Right.
We go downstairs. We both go downstairs. There's nobody home. My cousin's out with his friends. My uncle worked at a school overnight, so he wasn't there. And my aunt and my mom worked in Manhattan. They weren't home because they usually came home at the same time because they had to they took the same train. So he's like, okay, no one there. I don't know what it is. The other thing that would happen to me in that house, this only happened once, but it's still terrifying to me this day. I was maybe 12 years old at the time, and I got up around 4 a.m. because I really had to use the bathroom. I get up. I walk to my room door, and I hear this growl. Think of the Beast from Beauty and the Beast. This guttural growl. I freeze. I don't know what's out there. I'm terrified. I go back into bed, and I just lay there in fear for hours until the sun comes up. I never liked being alone in that house. I always felt like something was watching me. I wasn't the only one that had a nighttime experience like that.
Okay.
My cousin, who lived downstairs, he woke up one night around 3 a.m, needed to use the restroom. He got to his door and he saw this light going from the bathroom down to the basement. Bathroom down to the basement. There was nobody awake, no footsteps, no nothing. He said he just sat in his bed, stared at the bottom of the door, and just watched this light go back and forth for hours until the sun came up. You know, like remembering all of this stuff, like, yeah, I joke about it, and it's just, it makes me really uncomfortable because anytime I talk about this place, it feels like whatever is there knows you're talking about it. So we had the footsteps in the attic. We have the knocking on the door. You have the footsteps going through the living room. There were instances where my aunt would be home alone downstairs and she would hear someone stomping in my room.
Oh, that's scary.
Just stomping, running back and forth, like just going ham, like a teenager on drugs or something.
Could that have been what growled at you?
Potentially. So, yeah, I remember one time she came upstairs like screaming. She's like, it's like 9 o'clock at night. I'm trying to sleep. And we were all in the living room watching a movie. Fast forward to the summer of, this was probably 05-06. My dad's sister had come to live with us. So she ended up staying upstairs with us. I laugh at it now. Picture this. You walk into the apartment. As soon as you get in, there's the dining room. To the left is the living room. You go directly to the right. There's a door. You open the door. It brings you into the kitchen. You walk 8 feet and it takes you to this kind of squarish hallway. If you go down the hallway, take an immediate left, is the entrance to the bathroom. And directly across from the bathroom is the entrance to the closet. And there's probably a good, I want to say 6.5, 7 feet between those two doors. So I'm standing in the kitchen. My mom is standing in the kitchen. My sister is standing in my room doorway. My aunt walks out of my parents' room, turns to go into the bathroom, opens the door, steps 1 foot inside, and then gets flung into the closet door.
Whoa. Like she stepped on a landmine.
Yeah,
Wow.
right. She
Whoa.
stepped. I can remember it clear as day. That's something that's been burnt into my mind forever. Like she gets shoved, she lets out a little yelp, slams into the door, and my mom, to try to diffuse the situation, because she has a teenager and a young girl, she's like, oh, I guess the ghost had to use the bathroom. I talked to my aunt about it. I'm like, yeah, you remember that? She's like, oh, how can I forget? And she's like, that thing hated me.
Ooh.
Oh.
She was a devout Christian, and that thing hated my grandmother, because my grandmother on my dad's side, my dad's Indian, and my grandmother was a devout Hindu, and she would wake up every day before sunrise to pray. There were times where after my grandfather passed away, something would take a cup of water and toss it in her face while she's sleeping.
Oh.
Which she confided into my mom a little bit before she passed away. And she said that they don't let me sleep. The voices don't let me sleep.
The voices.
She'd be like in a dead sleep and something would scream in her face. These things would push her. There was one time my sister saw her actually get pushed. Like she was just standing still. And you see like something nudges her over and she falls.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so there were instances where it got violent. For some reason, it never got violent with me. It never showed itself to me. It would never show itself to the men that lived in the household. It was only the women.
Was it women or was it people who were very strong believers in their faith?
My mom, like being very Catholic, yeah, it would make itself known. I think it would make itself known, like you said, Diana, to people that were strong believers. Because my dad, even though he was a strong believer at the time, it's like he's working like a manual labor job like all the time. He doesn't have time to process this stuff. Same with my uncle and my cousin being a teen. Like he's never home. He's like out with his girlfriend and friends and stuff like that. So they would be the ones that were most affected. So JJ thinks it's demonic.
Okay.
The growl. Yeah.
Yeah. JJ thinks something there is demonic. And I will share that I found out this information late last year, that prior to moving into the home, there were two older German ladies that live across the street. And I don't know why my aunt never told anyone this. They introduced themselves because they saw they were moving in. They said to my aunt, you have to bless that home before you move in and after you move in.
Uh-oh.
Because the people there, they were German as well, were involved in some occult practices. They made the claim that some poor girl was used for maybe some satanic or nefarious purposes.
Oh my God.
I would think if you're doing something like that, you're opening a portal. The claim is that this happened in the same room that my mom tried to bless and got choked in.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't go over that part yet.
No, I was trying to go in like sequential order.
Okay. All right. Tell us about
Damn.
this.
Okay. So the German ladies next door said, we just want to warn you. There was some nefarious Satanism going on there, and you better bless the house when you move in.
Allegedly.
Alleged Satanism. Okay. Gotcha. And then, so your mom followed the advice. She tried to bless the house.
Yeah. So my mom didn't do that until after her and my dad actually signed closing documents to move. This happened after I told my parents, like, look, I want to get the fuck out of here. I don't want to live here anymore. I was either a junior or senior in high school at this point.
Oh, so you put up with it for a few years.
Yeah. And also because of my sister. My sister had an imaginary friend named Andy.
Oh, that's not creepy at all.
No, it was a kid that was dressed in a 1920s sailor suit. She described him.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
You know, those things like to appear as children.
Yep.
Yeah.
My sister would walk around holding his hand. And one time we were going to go to the store down the street. We get to the end of the street and my mom's like, is Andy still with you? And she's like, no, he's not allowed to leave this general area. He has to go back to the house.
Not allowed by who?
She said that Andy's mom didn't allow him to leave a specific area. He wasn't allowed to go across the street. After we decided to move, my mom, being Catholic, she likes to bless the house. She had those little, you ever seen those lantern thingies they have in the Catholic Church? So she would get that. She would put incense in it and she'd light it. And she'd go around every room saying her prayer, whatever. She does this upstairs. She does my room, her room, my sister's, kitchen, living room, dining room. Everything's fine. She goes downstairs, tells my uncle, like, hey, I'm doing a cleanse. Is it okay? Because my family downstairs, they were Muslim. So she always asked, like, okay, is it okay if I do this for you? And my uncle's like, I don't give a shit. like it's a prayer to God. You're fine. So she does their living room, does their dining room, kitchen, goes to my aunt's room. Fine. Goes to my cousin's room. And this is where it gets fucking weird. She started, swinging it, the lantern, to get the incense smoke.
Sure.
Started saying a prayer. Atmosphere got really thick. And she felt something like choking her. To the point where she's like, I got to get the fuck out of this room before I pass out from being choked.
Oh, wow.
Fast forward to that night. She has a dream that she wakes up. She's still in her bed. The environment is the house in her dream. And in her doorway is this old lady pointing at her, yelling at her. You're trying to get me out of my own fucking house. I'm going to fucking kill you and your fucking family. This is my fucking house. You're not going to kick me out of my own fucking house.
Wow.
And whatever the thing was emphasized, she's like, I'm going to kill your son, your daughter, and your husband. My mom said in the dream, she got pissed off. She grabbed the lady, pinned her to the wall by the throat, and said, you're not going to fucking kill anybody. If anybody's going to fucking kill anyone, I'm going to fucking kill you. You're not going to touch my kids. You're not going to touch my husband. And this thing had fear in its eyes and fucking shapeshifted into a little girl to get sympathy. She shared it with me like as soon as she woke up the next day. You could either go two ways. There's a demonic thing there. There's a demon in there that likes to shapeshift and, put itself forward as this frail, like images of old women, little kids.
Little sailor boys.
Yeah. Or there's multiple things there bound by this one strong evil thing. And as I'm telling you this, if you notice, I keep looking over to my doorway because it just feels creepy. And
yeah. I imagine. Oh, gosh. That's such a story. Oh, did you ever get any more details about the Germans who lived there, who practiced Satanism or something, allegedly?
The only thing that I know was that they found old, World War II memorabilia from the Axis side.
Your family found that in the house?
Yeah. Because when they sold the house, the people that sold it, I guess it was the kids of the former owner, they just sold it as is. And they were like, bye. Everything was left there. Everything in the attic. And I think the bad thing is my aunt kept some of the furniture downstairs. And that's a big no-no.
Yeah.
Some of the china cabinet and the dining table. You think those things would be harmless, but...
Oh, no.
Who wants to haunt a table?
I guess they really like that table.
Foodies.
Or that's where they strap their victims to.
Oh!
And then you're eating off of it. The very fact that there was Nazi paraphernalia in the house.
Ugh.
Just so much negative energy with that alone.
Right.
Did your parents find a way to get rid of that? Or did they just put it in a box and pretend it wasn't there?
Since my aunt and uncle were technically the owners of the home, I'm not sure what they did with it. I think they eventually tossed it. But whatever was there was already bound to it. Because there have been incidents that has happened in that home post us leaving.
Oh,
where, police have been involved and all this other stuff. And I get this information firsthand from my cousin that lives across the street. You can see everything going on.
Okay, yeah.
And yeah, it's one of those things where I don't know what it is. I don't want to know. And I always say to anyone listening to my story, please debunk it. I'd rather there be a scientific explanation for everything as opposed to
Seriously.
that being real. My last story I have from that house, I do have other things that happened to me recently. The last thing that happened to me in that house, I would hear my name being called, and it would be my mom's voice. It would be my dad's voice, my aunt, my uncle. There was one instance where my name was called, and my mom heard it in her voice. She heard it. I knew she was in the kitchen. So I go out of my room and I start walking there, and she's like, don't answer it. You never answer that stuff. It's the dead calling you. Do not answer.
It's the dead calling you. She was so confident. She just like flat out, this is how it is.
Yeah. I don't think anyone else other than my mom and myself. I've never asked my sister if she heard it in that house. We fast forward to, it was maybe the fall of 07, 06. So shortly before we're moving out. The way my schedule was as a high schooler at the time, like I had a very short schedule because, you know, your last couple of years of high school, you've done all your classes. All you have is like 3 lunch periods and a gym class.
Yeah.
I'm like, why am I even here? So I get home like around 11:30 in the morning, right? I go to my room, turn on my computer, then I turn on my Xbox. I'm sitting there. I'm completely home alone. Then I hear my mom's voice calling me. I'm like, that's odd. I ignore it. Did as she said before. Don't pay mind to it. Happens again. I'm like, what the fuck? So I pick up my phone. I call my mom. My mom works in Manhattan. I can hear the people around her. I can hear the wind because Manhattan was always windy. And she's like, hey, is everything okay? I'm at work. I'm not going to be home till about 4 o'clock. Like, what's going on? And I was like, I'm just making sure you didn't come home early. She's like, no, why? What's going on? I told her what happened. And she's like, you know what to do. Just ignore it. I'll be home when I can. Close your room door if you have to. I hang up the phone. I'm like, okay, whatever. I just continue doing what I'm doing. I hear the voice call me 2 more times. Chris. And I'm like, I mumble under my breath, like, leave me the fuck alone. There was a door that was open that separated the dining room and the kitchen. No windows were open. There was no draft in the house. That fucking thing, like, does a heavy ass, like, it slams shut. And I'm like, fuck this. Like, all the hair on my body stood up.
Yeah.
And I just sat there in fear. I closed my room door and I just laid in my bed until somebody came. Somebody came home. And then I told my parents, I'm like, I don't want to live here anymore. I can't do this anymore. And for the long time, from maybe age 12 to that point, I was an atheist because I was big into history, still big into history. I went to school for history. I wanted to be a history professor. And reading through historical texts, you come across situations where you question your faith in God. That situation happens. And I sit there and I think to myself, if there is something evil here, there has to be a counter to it. There has to be something good. And that's how I got back into Catholicism. Now, I'm not going to say I'm the greatest Catholic. I try to go to church. But when it comes to stuff like this, like, yeah, I take it seriously. So that kind of gave me not a nudge back into my faith, but a good kick in the ass.
I have a quick question. Okay, horror house trope here. Did you get this house for a great deal, or did your aunt get it for a great deal? Because I always wonder about this. Was it on sale?
It probably was, to be honest with you. It was a nice area.
Uh-huh.
Now I have to ask her. The whole like Nazi paraphernalia thing, that is 100%. Like they found it. They refused to show it to us. They're like, no, you're not going to go upstairs and dick around with this stuff. They found an old German Bible. I think it was either a Wehrmacht or a Waffen-SS uniform that was up there. So it had to have been somebody that escaped before the Allies took over or, kind of snuck away.
Chris, this has been an amazing interview. Thank you so much for sharing your stories with us. I think we're going to have to talk to you about having a return on our show at some point. Chris, this has been wonderful.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you both.
Is your podcast just available on podcatchers? Is it also available on YouTube? Where can people find it?
So you can find The Wandering Road. We're available on Apple, Spotify, all your podcast platforms. We have a YouTube channel. If you search The Wandering Road, we post our podcast there as well. We're also on social media. You can reach us on Instagram at TW Road Podcast. We're on Twitter. I'll never call it X. At TW Road Podcast. And we are also on Facebook. If you search The Wandering Road, you can like our page. And where I'm most active, it's TikTok. So if you search at TWR Podcast, you can find us there. Okay. And if you want to be a guest on the show, or if you have stories, or just want to suggest a topic, you can reach us via our email address of twroadpodcast@gmail.com.
Okay, and we'll have all that information in our show notes and in the description below this episode as well.
Hainted Loves, what do you think if you heard these footsteps moving across the floor at night from the quarters of a potential Nazi sympathizer calling your name? What would you do? I think I'd have a spooky day.
Homespun Haints is hosted by Becky Kielimnik and Diana Doty, and produced by Homespun Haints Media LLC. Editing and music by Becky Kielimnik. Show notes by Diana Doty. If you have a ghost story and you'd like to be considered as a guest for this podcast, please visit our website at homespunhaints.com/submit.